Hello, 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 hello. It's Gridiron 360. I'm Bill. Got Dave with me. We're doing our NFL recap week 11 with our new segment, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. All righty. Where should we start today? Should we start with the good?
Well, let's
We
keep
can
let's
mix it
keep
up.
it. Nah, let's keep it. I like the good, the bad, the ugly in that order.
All right. Well, we're going to start with a little fun for the good today. Our first good of the day, and as we had said, I'll backtrack. We're going to get these out on the Facebook. We'll share some little pieces, articles, videos that coincide with these. The first one is Zeke doing the Dak dance. Okay, so backstory. If you didn't know, I guess it was probably about a week or so ago.
Couple weeks, yeah.
And I'm not super on the socials, but I was watching the Thursday night game with a friend of mine who is a millennial and is on the socials and the tweets. And there's been a ton of memes that have come out with a new dance that is sweeping the nation known as the Dak dance. What the Dak dance is if you've watched Dallas Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott ever sit back in the pocket when he drops back for a pass, and nothing against him, he's been getting it done. But it's kind of like, have you ever seen Toy Story?
I have.
And you know, like the Army Men guys in the movie that like you used to play with,
Yep.
and they have
little
the
green
stands on their feet, and so when they show them moving, it's like hut, like one right, left,
Yep.
hut, and that's kind of what Dak looks back in the pocket. His feet kind of says hut, with his arm back, his cock back. It's like this dance, back, forward, back, left, right.
It's a hip flip.
Yeah. So in Sunday's game, the Dallas Cowboys took on the Detroit Lions. Zeke Elliott scores and proceeds to go towards the back of the end zone, like from the corner line on the right side, moving towards the goalpost, doing the Dak dance, baby. Hilarious.
I want to give Dak a little bit of credit on this one. Well, one, credit because he's being copied. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So-
Hey, look, that's the isn't that what they say?
Yeah.
The largest form of flattery.
Yep, absolutely. But I want to just say, I tried to do a 5-step little hip flip myself, and I'm actually on season-ending IR now because of it.
Oh my
so-
goodness! It's not as bad as Tua, is it? You didn't. The ball
I
didn't come out of the
It might
socket,
have.
did
I'm
it?
not as young as Tua, so I just wanted to see what
Well, I'll
does it
get
do.
you a ukulele.
It's I don't know if it's a stretch or if it's trying to create some muscle memory, but I give Zeke a little bit of credit. Like I know he's a running back with some loose hips, but man, that's impressive.
Performed it well.
Enjoy it.
Zeke doing the Dak dance. The number one good.
Yeah, it's fun. Go check it out. It's worth the 15 seconds of your life.
There you go. So let's move on to our number 2 good of the day, and this is not just this weekend, but really throughout the season. We do have it on the wide receiver side, but I'll say on the secondary, the defensive back side, I've seen some impressive stabs from corners. But It's the great wide receiver play we've seen in the NFL. Last night, even in the game with Kansas City and the Chargers, when the Chargers had that last drive, the first ball that the deep ball threat is Mike Williams, and the first ball Rivers threw up was just not even close, and he was like, and I don't know if it was the air or whatever. He was bad all night, but he threw another one up after that, which was a better ball, but Mike Williams just bodying up, falling backwards, making the catch, controlling the ball to the ground and getting down inbounds. And we've seen this throughout the year. So it happened in the Houston game where DeAndre Hopkins, and I remember watching this. He had probably, like a 10, 15-yard out, maybe even 20. And Deshaun slings one and to pick up the first down, and they ruled him out of bounds. And immediately, and he makes this great stab. He has right foot on the ground, drags the left toe, and immediately they go to Nuke like right after it when they called it out of bounds, and you see him and he's pointing to the line where his foot was, where he dragged. He's like, no, and I turned to, I don't know if I was by myself or watching. I go, that's first down. I go, if Nuke said it was, it's a first down. Like when he was that adamant, and when they showed the replay, it wasn't even close. Like he had it that drag for a mile, just impressive.
Well, I think to me, I will say back in the day, and I still remember this catch. Jerry Rice running down the right sideline, and I want to say it was against the Rams, and he literally, this was probably the last third of his career, kind of, not diminishing, but, he made a contested catch, where he just reached up with one hand and caught the ball, and it was, like, amazing. Like, it was one of the first, like, true, like, tough one-handed catches I've ever seen, and back then, to understand, these guys wore gloves that were probably equivalent to wearing batting gloves.
Yeah,
Like that's the tackiness, that's the surface type. One-handed grabs were much, much more difficult. I don't get impressed anymore by one-handed catches from a standpoint of just purely catching the ball with one hand. These guys sit there on jugs machines and get 60-mile-an-hour friggin' fastballs thrown at them and catch them with one hand. What is amazing to me with the wide receiver play, and you're touching on it with some of these catches, is the body control and the toe placement. I mean, we're talking about, I would dare you just to run along the sidelines.
Fractions of an inch.
Yeah, and toe tap within 3 inches of a sideline.
With no one on you.
At a full sprint.
Yep.
Just toe tap it.
Yep.
Don't
catch the ball,
catch
no
it,
one
don't do
on
anything.
you. Yeah.
And the fact and the body position that they get in some of this double coverage and their ability, their timing. Like, again, the gloves they use now are basically like glue. And these guys now, receivers have gotten so big, which when their bodies get bigger, their hands generally get bigger. So the football is not as daunting to catch as it may have been in the past from a catch standpoint. To me, it's the body control, the things these guys do. It's on the sidelines, the things they do falling backwards.
Yeah, well,
and to be able to get the ball is just amazing.
Yeah, look, in my mind, there is an absolutely one pass play that is completely indefensible in my mind, and that's the back shoulder.
Yep.
And these guys run it sometimes with precision. So another great catch right before, I believe, Zeke scampered in for a score and did the Dak dance. Michael Gallup, who actually had a couple amazing catches in the game for Dallas against Detroit, but he has one that they're at their own 45, and Dak launches one down to about the Detroit 15, and it's kind of like a back shoulder type throw because it's behind a little bit. Gallup turns around his full body around, falling backwards to catch it. But in addition to everything you said, the concentration, because he didn't even catch it. He got his hand up there, was a little interfered with, didn't get the ball. It's popped up in the air, and as he's falling on the defensive back sideways, manages to reach around his right and get this thing in his grasp and go to the ground. So just the concentration, and that goes a lot with those back shoulder throws. Just timing of the jump, be able to play the ball right, get your hands up there and be using your hands way up there and getting your jump high enough. But then, like, as you're going to ground, not just controlling it, but if you don't have full possession, not giving up on the ball and continuing to stay focused and try to make the grab. A lot of those, and very impressive.
Yep.
Number 3 of the good this week, it's one name, Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, and really, we talked about this game in our last segment, and it's really something impressive to me as somebody that's kind of led teams, and I've kind of learned, like, there used to be this belief in all teams, whether it's sports teams, whether it's a work team, whether it's a group of people just getting together and working for a common goal. It's the idea that define who we are and how we're going to do it first, and then fit the pieces in. And Lamar Jackson does not fit into traditional NFL models. I would say he even is on the fringe of emerging NFL models right now. And watching what happens when you take a guy that's got a very specific and unique set of skills, definitely beyond the traditional quarterback role, and giving him a system to let him be him. And, man, the results this year have been amazing. And what he is doing out there just hasn't really been done.
Now, would you say, I know this is his second year, but it's his first year starting, would you say this is more of his, more like a rookie campaign than a sophomore campaign?
Yeah. Well, here's how I'd put him. I would say, and this is why I'm going to praise him significantly. It's just like, in my mind, there is this, I'll use Mahomes as the most recent person. Mahomes was in his second year. This is really his third year, but it's his first year starting.
Good.
But
everything kind of
it's
working
like,
together.
because understand
First
something,
year.
he's going to put a lot of film out there, and defensive coordinators, even though this game has definitely gotten more offensive, are no dummies. These guys figure things out, and there's some really bright minds defensively. So I like I said, I'm not ready to crown this guy as the be all end all for the future and the next Tom Brady, but again, it's his skill sets match what they're doing, and they matched what they're doing to his skill sets is the more important thing. I think there are teams that are going to figure it out. I think he has deficiencies as a quarterback, as every quarterback does. I mean, as great as Tom Brady is, there are some deficiencies. Now, good luck to you trying to exploit them, because he knows his deficiencies and he figures out ways to offset them. And that's going to be Lamar Jackson's long-term effectiveness will be determined by that. But what he is doing right now, it is like a rookie campaign. It's the first time people are seeing this out there in this form. It's this idea of everybody always first we didn't want running quarterbacks. Then we want a throwing quarterback that can run, a la an Aaron Rodgers. Now we're committed to a true running quarterback that can also throw. And that's really what I think he is. And it's working. And the key with him is going to be to protect himself, but he's been very adept at that this year. And I would say right now he's got to be the front runner in the race. I think the race is closer than people want to think. I mean, these last 5 weeks, 6 weeks are going to matter.
What is the race, Dave?
It's being realistic. It's him and Russell Wilson right now.
Well, then let's get right into it, because our good and final good for the week, number 4, the MVP race.
Yeah.
And right now, the way you've got it posted, Lamar's the front runner. 1A is Russ, and 2 is the rest, where we said maybe one guy at the top of that rest list was probably CMC.
Yeah, maybe even, but probably certainly further down would be like a Dalvin Cook. I mean, there are guys having spectacular years right now. You had Drew Brees get injured, and God, in a way, I'd almost say, like, how does Michael Thomas with what he does every friggin' week, and he's not even going to be in the conversation. But the truth is, this is very much like the Heisman Trophy. Like, let's not kid ourselves. Unless a running back does something so monumentally huge, the question is, just like the Heisman with this, is it the most valuable player to his team? Is it the highest producing player statistically? Or is it the best player on the best team? I think that last piece is what this might come down to with Lamar Jackson and Russell Wilson. I think Lamar Jackson's going to have the more eye-popping stats when it's all said and done. But the question is, does he take this team and potentially be a 1 or at least a 2 seed? Does Russell Wilson do that too as well? And then the stats might be the ultimate tiebreaker. But right now, you can't deny it. I mean, their defense wasn't playing that well. Now, their resurgence of their defense is awesome for the Ravens right now. But remember, Seattle is not the defense they've been in the past, and this is a Seattle team that's very dangerous. And it's just been that. I think the guy that has done more in games to me to make it to really show his value has been Russell Wilson. But part of that is because Lamar Jackson hasn't been in as many games where he's had to win something in the fourth quarter and gut it out because he's blowing teams out. So I don't know. It's just it's a special race. I feel bad that no other players are really getting pulled into this, but the truth is it's a quarterback-driven league, and it's only gotten more quarterback-driven in the last 5 years. So it makes sense that these guys are up top. Right now, I would say Lamar Jackson would win it if it ended today.
Yeah.
I think there's still way too much to be written. And I think Russell Wilson is probably the guy that's got the shot. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Sure. Well, I mean, look, coming into the game against the Texans, and this is going to be a big game because these teams will probably see each other in postseason. He comes into this game on fire, and he just didn't slow down. I mean, he gashed the Texans for 86 yards on the ground with 9 carries. He was 17 of 24 for 222 and 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. He became the first Raven to have 4 scores in multiple games this season. But his passer rating wasn't great in the Texans game. It was just 139.2, unfortunately.
Boo!
But,
how come you not get the extra 19 points?
Look, where we're at this season with Lamar is, people, they can't defend him, whether it's running or passing. He's thrown for 2,258 yards, 19 touchdowns, and a passer rating of 106.3. He has 788 rushing yards, on pace to shatter any single season rushing record by a quarterback at this point in the season. In Week 10, they blew out the Bengals, and in that game, the only other quarterback apparently is Ben Roethlisberger that has a history to post a perfect passer rating multiple times in the season of 158.3.
Wow.
Okay, so that's some impressive stuff, and he's just not stopping. His running back Mark Ingram came out with almost like a silly little rap intro for Lamar Jackson as MVP candidate, and rightfully so. I mean, the guy is just amazing. Now, on the other hand, look, Russ is no slouch, bro. Right now, he's thrown for 2,737 yards, 23 TDs, only 2 picks. He's just a hair under a 115 passer rating, so that's better than Lamar from a passing standpoint. He hasn't been as much of a threat on the ground, but he's thrown in about 256 yards and 3 scores on the ground, so he only does it when he needs to. He's gotten everyone on that team involved. He's made people that you haven't heard of that much, and as well along with a rookie and DK Metcalf. I mean, this is a team, they're definitely throwing the ball more than they did last year because they were the biggest rushing team, and they too, Pete Carroll's adapting to the stuff they have, but they can still run the ball. I'd argue right now, all around could be the best offense in the NFL, Seattle, all around.
I'd say this would be my argument. I think I can make a pretty compelling argument. I won't do it all right now, but for the fact that I believe if you took Russell Wilson off this team and then you took Lamar Jackson off this team and insert quarterback X onto both teams, I think Seattle has a much worse record. I think they both have worse records, clearly, because you can't lose an MVP.
Possibly,
well,
because that they would turn to the ground game because they've done it before.
Right, but look at how many close games that they've been in.
Yeah, that's very true.
And so you start to swing all of those games. You can't right now. You cannot argue the stats. They both have excellent records, so I think it's going to be fun to watch. Look, you make your bones for this race, though, in the back half and probably the back, 4 to 6 games of the year is where the cream rises to the top. They set up matchups to be tougher than generally. You get some divisional matchups. I just think it'll be interesting. So it's fun to watch. Both great players this year. 2 of the most exciting players to watch right now.
Yeah, I mean, with the matchups they have left, we ran through them in our last segment. I mean, and the way they're playing, like I said, neither of them really slowed down. We know, I mean, if anything, you might think Lamar because it is, quasi his rookie season.
Yep.
Russ has been there, done that, but they're not slowing down. Fun to watch. So we'll move into the bad of the week, and I actually shared this already on Friday after it happened in Thursday Night Football, and I had ugly, but we're gonna move it to bad because there's more now that's come out that it's Tuesday, and that is all things Myles Garrett. And again, if you don't know, even if you're not a football fan or full time or just casual, the absolute disgusting behavior at the end of the Browns Steelers game where Myles Garrett and the Cleveland had that game won, and the Oogie Boogie from Cleveland sacks Mason Rudolph. It looked like he might have thrown a little body into it, which they are now calling roughing the passer. It wasn't called. I think that's kind of what irked Mason Rudolph. I think there was some chatter.
Yeah.
And Myles Garrett's back there also falling down with him, gets a grasp of Rudolph's helmet, rips it off, and then they both get up, and he proceeds to swing the helmet. Fortunately, it was open side, not dome side, and hits Mason Rudolph in the face,
top of the head.
in the head.
Yep. Yeah, here's the thing is, it's it's ugly for so many reasons. But let me just say, if Myles Garrett had ripped off his helmet and then punched him in the face, it would have been dirty. People would have been upset. He would have got suspended. But it wouldn't have stuck with that guy for his entire career. This is an event that is going to be, this guy is going to have this mark on him and be remembered for this. No matter what he does in the NFL, he will always have this on him. Now, here's what's interesting to me about it is, well, before we get into that, let me ask you a question. Indefinite suspension through the end of the, or suspension guaranteed through the end of the year, indefinite at this point, meaning there's still decision to be made on whether that will continue into next year and to what length. Myles Garrett is appealing it. You know, and part of me says he shouldn't appeal it, but the reality is he's part of a players' union. They are always going to appeal.
I know they're going to do that, but
it
is part of the bad
because it's
dude,
precedent setting.
You are, excuse my language, you are a fucked up individual.
Yeah, I want to say this. I guess the bigger
that's assault, bro. On the streets, that's assault.
Yeah,
and had he hit him with the dome side instead of the open side, I mean, I don't want to go so far as to saying the kid would be dead, which again, this is a big man swinging, not just like Gator arming. He came windmill, and at the least, if it was dome side, he could have busted the kid's skull, given him brain. Any of these things, that is assault. And I'm not saying Mason Rudolph. I know there was a lot of tweets after it from other players, and people did not see what Mason Rudolph did, and Roger, Vontaze Burfict, because he's a great example. It was like NFL, Roger Goodell's a B. Look, I'm not saying Mason Rudolph's out of clear. There's no way that guy would have done that without being instigated, and we only know. But it's football; these things happen. And people say, look, Jalen Ramsey says much worse before the ball's even snapped when he's lining up on a receiver. But the fact of the matter is, what are you doing? This is a game. This is unbelievable, and I give credit, in a sense, to Mason Rudolph because there was the talk about his agent and talking about filing a civil suit for assault. That's not going to happen. We don't need that. I think that is worse for the game and for NFL than anything else, as bad as it was. But, my man, you are out of control. I know it's the heat. I've played football, and maybe not to your level, and I'm sure from what I understand, I can only imagine how heated it is and your adrenaline, but it is the end of the game and you've won it. That's the other thing that seems to get missed in this. It's like it's not like you're getting your ass kicked. This season continues to be a travesty, and you should you're just angry. This guy is just lost. I mean, that's not normalcy, bro. You can't have it. I do give some credit, and I'll probably throw this up there. We didn't have it in the goods, but Baker Mayfield, for everything that's happened, him not being performing, he did say, there's no room for that, man. And I get it. People, you got to have your teammates back, and I get the suspension for Pouncey, but I do think that it was the right thing to do. I know the kicking is a little much, but that's his quarterback. You got to have his back. And I get it, having your teams back in terms of Baker having Garrett's back, but that's just inexcusable.
Yeah,
It gave him way more credibility and the team in my mind.
yeah, it was the right way to respond. I could be honest with you. Let me say, the incident was horrible. There's no way, there's no talking your way around it. Some things that came out of this that that I was not. You know what? Some things I didn't like, and I'm going to get on my soapbox for just a brief second. As it relates to the response from the NFL players specifically, the players actually came out pretty strong against Myles Garrett. Many people tweeting.
There was I only mentioned like the Vontaze because most of them were in support that this was egregious.
Not
but
exactly.
There
the
were
voice
those
I want.
few, and those are the ones that always get like
Right.
the notice. They're the ones that are like, what?
But
What? You
but-
don't play the game.
But I would say overall there was a significant condemnation from players calling for suspensions
Yes.
for a year, rest of the year at least. I mean, people were pretty much. I guess when it comes to suspensions and trying to hurt people, I wish I saw a little bit more of that condemnation when guys beat the shit out of 120-pound women. I wish there was a little bit more of that.
Mhm.
But that's just
We're
me
talking
personally.
at you, Mark Walton, punching your pregnant
we'll
girlfriend.
We'll
you
get
dum-dum.
to that. But I
Yeah,
just,
we
I
will.
just, well, let me just go. Like what I saw Ray Rice do. I mean, could he have done significant damage? We're talking about a huge man that just Colcocks on video. I mean, whether it's on video or not, but on video just lets us know how severe it was, or what Joe Mixon did to the girl in college. I mean, just things like that. I wish there was a little bit more outrage. At least in some ways, I can say that Mason Rudolph's big enough to defend himself. But at the same time, he's swinging a weapon. But that's one part. On the other end, I want to say this. Unlike most guys I've seen that have done wrong, Myles Garrett afterwards, he didn't really have much of a choice. It would have been a big problem for him if he hadn't. But he owned it. There's nothing else he can say. He said it's unacceptable.
he
I can't
screwed
do
up.
it. So he screwed up.
I will give
And-
him that. I
and
mean,
it's-
there's not
it-
much you can do.
Yeah,
What's
you
done
can't.
is done.
You can't. He did it. And again, he's going to have to live with this stain on his career forever. It's
well,
going to be there.
let me ask you this, because you see, and Vontaze Burfict is a perfect example of a guy that like it's carried with him. But what about a guy like Ndamukong Suh? And maybe it's because he hasn't been so much in the limelight, but he had some really egregious things he's done
Yeah.
in the past, and
Absolutely.
you just
Stomping on the guy's knee.
I know that,
Yeah.
but how much do you? I mean, if he did it again, certainly it'd be like, oh, well, that's Ndamukong Suh. But you talk about it staying with you. Personally, it's going to, and this is way more egregious than even anything we've seen from Suh. But professionally, that narrative for Suh has kind of gone away. Now, is it because he's not as much of an impact player? Because that goes against a little bit of that narrative.
Yes and no. I think that's cost him money. Look, we know what this game's all about. It ain't all about competition. It's about money. And Myles Garrett's not going anywhere. I mean, he's going to play in Cleveland. He's going to probably get a nice big contract when it's all said and done. He's going to have to do a lot of things. He's probably going to, I'm sure there'll be the anger management courses and community service. He's going to have to get with his agent and rehabilitate his image, all that stuff. He's going to have to he's going to have to go through some pains with this. What I like when I say it carries with his career, it's just the simple fact is he's going to have to answer that question.
Yep.
Our Hall of Famers. Let's just say he puts up a pretty solid career and is a marginal Hall of Fame player. Is it like the baseball in the Roy era where where now you got guys that clearly statistically belong in the Hall of Fame, but now that there's that cheating aspect, is it the kind of thing where the Hall of Fame says, you know what? We don't want a guy that didn't represent himself with class all the time. It's things like that. It's going to impact. It's going to certainly impact endorsements.
Well, in terms of
it'll be those kind of things.
All right. Well, let me. I don't want to
Not
sit
that
on
it's
this
not
too
recoverable.
long, but I do have one more question. So, I certainly think the rest of the season suspension is warranted. But moving forward, how much into next year? I totally believe it will trickle in the next year somehow. But how much should it be? An entire season? Should this guy be allowed to play again? If he's allowed to play again, what sort of tight leash is he on?
Well, let me say this.
2 minutes.
For me personally,
Give me 2
I know
minutes.
it'll be quick. I can give you 30 seconds. From my perspective, which doesn't matter. Like, to me, playing in the NFL and earning millions of dollars is a privilege, just like any of us. You know, we have a job; it's a privilege. If I did some of the things in the NFL that
That they
some of
do,
these
that
guys
if you
do,
did it in your
there would be no
workplace?
second chance in my work life. You know, there's a lot of questions I'd have to answer. Now I'm gonna remove the hitting somebody at work. Like, it's a game. Like, sorry, in the NHL it's legal to get into a fight. So I mean, it's a penalty, but it's it's part of the game. But my point is this, I guess, is I don't agree with the way the NFL doles out suspension for anything. Like, to me, when you hurt somebody and you get a felony, you know, and these guys have tons of money and plea all this crap down. Like, when people do stuff like that, like, it's a privilege. Like, you shouldn't be allowed to play. I don't feel bad for them. And part of their requirement, whether they like it or not, and this is the argument. It gets the cap argument and all this argument about, like, well, I have the right, and like, you can't stop me from working. And the truth is, yeah, because these are businesses. They can stop you from working. They have every right, and you represent them publicly, just like a public official.
Yeah.
Was there not a public official? I think she had some sex video with her breaking the rules of the house, and she had two, like a thruple, whatever the hell that is now. But my point is, like, she had to leave office. Like, it happened. And is she going to ever get reelected? No, it's just that's part of her job. She has a public figure, and she did something that if any one of us did it in our private life, one, it wouldn't get any press. But
So
what does the NFL do?
what do you personally? Should he play again? Yes or no? Personally.
I think it should be a really stiff suspension, and I think
So,
I
do you think it should be all next season or part of next season? Because if you think he's going to play again, it's whether he's going to be suspended all of next season or some of next season. Quick.
personally, I have a stiffer suspension, but I would say I think he's
What do
just
you
going to
think
miss
that's
this
gonna
season.
happen?
I
Yeah.
think he's just
Okay.
going to. I think
Okay.
it'll just be this season.
All right. Next bat of the day. Passer interference doesn't exist anymore in the NFL, or at least this new PI challenge call.
Not on video, it doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, look, you have, and I don't look. The officials, if they're going to make the call, they're going to make the call. But if they have this in place to challenge and go to the review and replay, I mean, and we're going to put up the example again of my man DeAndre Hopkins, who had a touchdown in the end zone pretty much and was tackled before the ball even got to him. And there was no way it wasn't, so they should have had the ball right on. And that really, not that it wouldn't end up being the blowout it was, but it was early enough in the game that it was still close. It could have changed a little bit of the trajectory of the game. And Bill O'Brien throws the challenge. They go to review. I mean, it's clear as day. I don't know what pass interference is, but I do know that just about every PI challenge I've seen teams throw and get reviewed this year with this new pass interference challenge not be overturned. That's what I know from what I've seen. I can tell you the one. It might have been like if there was one overturned, it might have been the first game or two of the season, first week or two of the season, just because it was so brand new. But I'll tell you, since then, I haven't seen a single one overturned. This was ridiculous. I mean, and then we're not talking about some chump receiver. Okay, that's the other thing. You got one of the best receivers in the games, one of the, if not the best hands in the game. The guy doesn't drop balls. Okay, the only way he wasn't out of position. It wasn't overthrown or thrown where he couldn't get it. He was flat out tackled before the ball got there. And they go to review. And yeah, the call stands, as we said, on the field. No pass interference. And they get screwed, and I think they ended up having to punt that drive, and the whirlwind just then continued to begin. So we've talked a lot about it early in the year, how ridiculous this is. This is bad for the NFL. You know, replay all together we have problems with a lot of times. But this whole PI thing and being able to challenge it one way or the other, really stemming from one incident, y'all. One incident. And that was the NFC Championship game between the New Orleans Saints and the Los Angeles Rams.
Yep. And I said it, you said it, everybody's been saying it since the rule got instituted. It's all about the unintended consequences. Now here we are, not shockingly, I don't think anybody's shocked with the unintended consequences of this. What they really wanted, I think, was if it's a playoff caliber game and that call is big in the game, we want the ability to fix it. The problem's going to be the way they've set this up through all the season. I mean, all it has been a timeout waster. That's really what it's been. Guys, the teams have blown timeouts. Well, I guess the question is, if they're going to call it in the playoffs because it's egregious and that game, quote unquote, matters significantly more, does that change? But at the same time, you're creating a habit amongst coaches, which right now I think a lot of coaches are going, why the hell am I? This is worse for me.
What's the point?
Because the fans are going to trash me if I don't call it,
if
I don't throw the flag, but I also need my timeout.
Yep.
So I'm like screwed either way. What this did is it just screwed coaches. And
I mean, like, if they're going up to their people in the booth on their side saying, dude, we've got to throw it. It was total PI. But now it's like, well, now what's going on in the head sides? Well, dude, it's total PI. We have to throw it. But we know, that they haven't overturned these. And they've even come out and said they're going to not overturn them unless it's absolutely blatant, pretty much, or they can absolutely see it, and even then they're not. So now they're on that side, like, do we go? Do we not go? Do we throw it? It's just ridiculous, and I hope they get it right, because otherwise it just needs to be a one-hit wonder, and then dish it and ditch it. Well,
I would be shocked if GMs did not vote to get rid of it next year, and teams, because of the problem with it. But here's the whole thing: is let's just call it what it is. I would say, listen, every friggin' stadium has TV screens the size of the state in them, right? Mm-hmm. You can see it. Show the replay up on the board. Let the ref look at the one replay. Walk over to the coach and say, you got a chance or you don't have a chance.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not saying I'm going to call it, but I'm going to look at it and I'm going to go, maybe there's something there, because you're making coaches
because then
guess.
also they're going, those refs go to New York. So, like, they could maybe have an influence on that if New York says, well, we just don't see enough. You can say, well, it might be. They could go into it and say, listen, I told the coach that, maybe he had a chance on this one, rather than say, save your friggin' time out.
Yeah, but that call's still made by the official on the field. That's why they bring those surface books out there. They're talking to somebody in New York to give them, saying, hey, let me look at this.
Yeah, I know that, but, so I don't know.
But
it's ugly.
It was
it's ugly.
It was
they
the
need
disaster
to get it right.
everybody knew it would be.
Yep.
Another great move by the NFL.
Yeah, because I feel like also they're just not making the call when it is blatant and just letting it, oh, well, maybe someone will challenge it. There's just, I don't know how you don't call that. But the third bad of the week, it started out as the premiere of the weekend with Mr. Colin Kaepernick coming back into conversation as NFL teams were flocking to Atlanta to see him work out, and ended the weekend with the sequel to the worst movie ever made, as he last minute changes the location on these teams. Not all of them end up showing up. Didn't want the media press, but he does want the media press. Trying to get a job back in the NFL, yet dogging the NFL. And Stephen A. Smith, he went off about it. He's like, and people were like, well, if you're, he's like, I have no problem with you making a statement, man. No problem with it. I'm a black guy. I see where you're coming from. No problem. But you're making a statement, and you need to understand in doing so that, and who you're going against, that you then can't come and bite the hand that feeds you, so to speak. And what's his name? The guy on the show with Stephen A., the guy from boxing.
Max
Kellerman responds, well, what about Terrell Owens? He's like, what about him? He always stood up against that, and he'd be like, well, yeah, but he proved his point. Because after he was done in the NFL, the only thing he could do at that point to show his displeasure with it was not show up at the Hall of Fame ceremony. No, he didn't not go anywhere. He went to his alma mater in, what was it, Middle Tennessee or whatever, and spoke there. But that was kind of a statement that he made, and he stuck to his guns. I mean, don't get it twisted. These guys get paid, but the true NFL players, the greats, aspire to end up wearing the gold jacket. Okay? And don't think that T.O. didn't want that either. But that was, at that point, he was done. His career was over. That was all he could do to really make a stand, and he stuck to his guns. And somewhere in there, it does probably hurt him, though people don't think it does because it was his choice, that he didn't go to the Pro Football Hall of Fame to accept it. But he made a stand in what he believed in. Now you got a guy like Kaepernick, and Stephen A. is right. You're not talking about the same thing because this guy's trying to get a job. That's why this whole circus is going on. Yet he still wants to bash the NFL.
Yeah,
Don't bite the hand that feeds you, young man. Go back to last week's cast. 4 numbers. 2016. He hasn't played a snap of NFL football in 3 years.
Yeah, I guess I want to say this. I'm a big believer in what you're saying. I believe Colin Kaepernick has been his own worst enemy in this. But something that I read about that, and I'm not a believer in the NFL leadership at all. Like as a organizational leader, I think they do a lot of things incorrectly. There was something to this that was more. Now, I think they're both guilty of some serious wrongdoing, and I think they both look like idiots. The NFL, Roger Goodell, and Kaepernick. Kaepernick got the most press for his stupidity. I do believe that whole idea to move the thing was planned. But something that I read about
totally planned.
And yeah, but what I read about, and this is the part where the NFL looks really poor. I do believe there was some teams that said, look, one team doesn't want to set up a workout because then all of a sudden they get like, and Stephen A. Smith brought this up. It was like with the Ravens. He was going to get a shot with the Ravens, and Ray Lewis was trying to intercede in that. And then his girlfriend of Colin Kaepernick went out right before they were supposed to meet and do that and said that the owner is Biscotti is an absolute racist and said Ray Lewis is an Uncle Tom. And so he took the Baltimore's most high-profile historic player who has been, he's got his checkered past in parts, but he has spent a lot of time trying to make things better, not only for his football team, but has done a lot of community work, whether that atones for anything that may or may not have happened in Atlanta, whatever. But my point is, he went and did that, and he blew it up. Here's the part I have a problem with the NFL, and I haven't read the language, but I've had people, write about it, so I'll take it to be somewhat true. It makes sense. The NFL made a settlement with him, a private settlement. He was given a contract, or not a contract, but a waiver that he had to sign. The waiver you would think would be, okay, if you get hurt or anything like that, the NFL is not responsible. You're responsible on your own, would be a standard waiver. Something, to my understanding, the NFL added was that there was extra creative language written in there, which basically would have been an attempt to try to keep him from suing them further for damages for holding out his career. I got to tell you, that makes the NFL look really, really bad.
Yeah, stupid.
Just awful. So my point was then it was not in honesty, so I get kind of his feeling on it, but at the same time, you could have gone and got a job.
Yep.
So
look, Josh Gordon worked at a car dealership.
Yeah, these guys are just idiots. It's again, we're talking about whiny, crying millionaires and billionaires. But we want I struggle to feel bad for a millionaire, but at the same time, I guess in comparative to the billionaire, they feel bad. I gotta be honest with you. You could pay me to walk in there, take one nasty hit from Nick Bosa, and then let me collect my millions and never hear from me ever again, and I'd be okay.
Yep. Have a nice day. Okay, it's time for the UGLY with the ugly, and we've got 4 on the list. We'll start with the Indianapolis Colts, and it was ugly just because of how it ended up and the result of the actual
But it
play.
should have been good.
But it should have been good because it was kind of funny. Go.
So, I guess I got to look at it like my Chicago Bears had William the Refrigerator Perry kind of created the coolness of having one of your big uglies running the ball. If you don't know, he could very well be the best offensive lineman in football. Quentin Nelson has
Second year
has
out
the
of Notre
body,
Dame.
he's strong, but he has a nasty toughness streak that I don't know anybody can match. This guy's just a manimal. He's crazy. So they line him up at fullback to block for Marlon Mack, I think was the dot of the I, if I remember correctly, and on a goal line play. And they hand it off, instead of him with the bulldozer in front of him, give it to Quentin Nelson, and he leaps over, gets the call for the touchdown, goes in and scores. So, in the day of choreographed celebratory, somebody trying to come up with something creative. So he goes in the end zone, gets all the guys around him.
His offensive lineman mostly.
Yeah, someone lays down on the ground. He puts his hands on the back of his shoulder. Two guys lift up his legs, and he's kind of looks like he's doing a handstand off this guy's back. The best part is the announcer had no clue what he was doing, and so, which was hysterical. But for any of you that have ever maybe been to college or
even
were
not
21
been to a
years
party.
old and seen a party where the beer was tapped out of a keg,
Was flowing like the rivers of Capistrano.
It was
Did
an
the
awesome version of
the keg stand. Gave us the kegger. But the reason we have this as a bag, because that was
ugly.
ugly, because it was kind of fun and funny and actually executed pretty well.
Yes.
Is because why, Dave?
He didn't actually score the touchdown.
Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba.
On replay, they reversed one of the ultimate celebratories I've seen. The best part to me was before it was not called a touchdown was the guy going, I think he said my sources, or I've just been given word that was a keg stand. What's
we have
up,
a keg
old
stand,
guy?
ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, seriously.
There is a keg stand on the field.
What?
Keg stand. Looking up to the crowd.
Seriously.
Keg stand, anyone?
Somebody
Awesome.
go get that guy in the back room behind where the
So what's he
where the
have
beers
for an
are?
encore when he actually does score? Is he going to climb up on like a pyramid of his offensive linemen and have two like Bud Lights like Stone Cold and like
Smash him on his head? Maybe-
Somebody from the audience is going to actually throw the beers on the field. Nice.
Yeah, can't do a funnel because there's no props. So
Yep.
We'll see, but it was very inventive. Love it, especially since of all the guys you see, usually you see a D tackle doing this. It was cool to see an offensive lineman get this opportunity, and would have been.
But
great
it
if
was ugly because he scored.
But
All right.
take a look for him on the fantasy waiver wire, by the way.
Yeah, there you go. Ugly number 2, the Washington Redskins. Now
you tell this story.
Okay, now there's been a public outcry, especially from Redskins fans this week, about just new ownership, just new coaches, just absolutely this team has gone into the dumpster. And so, they fire their head coach earlier in the year. They've got an interim coach there. They've switching back between Case Keenum, Colt McCoy, both of them now hurt. Rookie Dwayne Haskins, who's not really looked great, was announced to be the starter of the rest of the year a couple weeks ago by interim head coach. Look, I've dogged Haskins in the past from the sense that he has got a great arm. He's not really the mobile quarterback, but he only was a one-year starter at Ohio State. And in terms of them drafting him as high as he went, it was not somebody I wanted the Giants to draft. He just didn't have enough experience under his belt. And coming into the season, before the season began, a lot of the beat writers in Washington said he looks great, but he just doesn't really have it between the ears. Like he's just lost in terms of still learning the playbook and being able to read defenses. And I truly believe that has a lot to do with his experience of only being a one-year starter at Ohio State. All that said, the guy's trying. He threw a really, really nice deep ball to fellow Ohio State rookie receiver Terry McLaurin in this game. He threw a touchdown to McLaurin. I think he got called back for holding, and then he threw a deep ball that McLaurin made a good play on, but it was a good pass. That was a dime. Out today comes this video, which we'll share, and a video that coincides with it to tell the story more, of Dwayne Haskins on the sideline with the Washington Redskins offensive line, the guys that protect him, leaning over saying, what can I do to help you? Now, look,
Let's just frame it this way. He was, without using the word, he was literally begging them.
yeah. And
to help
somebody said something, and he was like, "No, F that. No, what can I do to help? What can I do to help?" And now I understand this guy is a rookie. These guys on the line might have been there a while or have played in the NFL a while. This guy's got to take command of the team in order for them to get better. As a quarterback, that's your job. And so, from a sense, like maybe these guys just don't look at him like that and don't have that belief yet. He hasn't really proven it. I mean, you got to give the guy a chance, and you're the guys that have to give him that chance by giving him some protection. From a sense, like they don't just see him as a leader is what it looked like, and they just kind of blew him off. But he's pleading with them, guys, what can I do to help? What can I do to help? And they're all just kind of looking funny, and it's just a bad look. And I have it as ugly because most especially the starting left tackle for the Redskins, his name is, it'll come up here in a second. They just are like looking the other way, shrugging it off, smirking. It's like they don't even care.
They don't want to listen
I know
to him.
that you guys are now 1-9. And you lost to the Jets. You were trailing 34-3 in the fourth quarter. Ended up losing 34-17. And the Jets suck. But give me a break, man. Like, what sort of team chemistry? I mean, you're the line. You got to protect this guy. You're not doing it. And he's not, like, getting on you. He's like, please, how can I help you? And their response is to shrug him off and to laugh.
I got to be honest with you. I feel for Haskins, whether you like him or not, or think he's going to be a good quarterback. First of all, I mean, talk about getting hit with the big getting punched in the gut. You got drafted by the Redskins, so that's like, oh God, my life sucks. You got the worst owner in football. And that's hard to do. There's a lot of bad owners, but, man, he's the worst. Then you've got people telling you need to assert yourself more. So I'll tell you, I would love to coach the kid just from a leadership standpoint on some things. Like, I'd like him to walk in there, and I'd like him to show that video in front of all his offensive linemen and say, you know what?
Oh, I'm sure they did.
No. I would like him to do it.
Oh, him to do it?
And I'd say, some of you guys will not be working in the NFL next year. If your face is on this one, I'm talking to you. Because the truth of the matter is, that's disgraceful.
Yep.
Disgraceful. I mean, this kid is
I don't care how bad you are. This is the NFL.
Yeah. This isn't, I'll even say this. This isn't Mitch Trubisky, going to beg his offensive line after having several games of poor performances. This is a kid that, he hasn't lit the lamp when he's got out there, but he's gotten very limited chances on a team just totally depleted of any sort of talent, and he's out there trying to win, and he's begging these guys to get going. And I agree with you. It was ugly. It was a bad look. In a way, I'm going to cheer for this kid a little bit more because there's nothing worse than going out there in any sort of team effort and knowing your team doesn't have your back. And I just think that that's disgraceful. So this is just ugly on the Redskins, particularly ugly on the offensive line. And then with the nice, I didn't even call him the O-line. I call him the Olay line because
the Olay
let everybody run through.
Right. So I don't even have it up here, and I'll have to find it. I had it. I showed you this morning, but the left tackle, obviously, it used to be Trent Williams. He's not in there, but the other guy, Bergstrom, Tony Bergstrom. Okay, he is Bergstrom, this white guy with the red, kind of looks like red hair and little red facial hair. And I'll post the video of Haskins pleading, but then I'll try to find, because I don't know where it went, the follow up where they show a play. I don't think it was that game, but just like this is the guy that's smirking the most, and they show a play where he absolutely just like kind of sits down and defensive lineman just blowing by him. It's like, what do you have?
He doesn't even know which guy to block.
Punk. You can't even block anybody. All right, on to the next one. Hard knocks, huh? Or is it hard times for Mr. Walton? Now, Miami hasn't been good this year. They had the whole issue with Kenyon Drake, Minkah Fitzpatrick going, Kenyon Drake now going. You have
Balaj
who's just not a good NFL running back. Mark Walton gets his chance. Then he gets suspended because of his prior arrest charges. You go into it.
Well, just a precursor on the
Give
suspension.
me like a 4-minute here.
He had 3 arrests over the offseason, and I don't have them all up, but I read them. I think there was a caught with drugs and a weapon, then there was a drug charge, and then maybe like a disturbance charge. It really wasn't the severity of the charges. They were bad looks, but it was the fact that he had 3 of them all one in a row. Like when Miami brought him in, I'm trying to remember if he was a trade or if he was just a sign.
Kenyon Drake?
No, Mark Walton.
Oh, Mark Walton? I think he was just a sign.
Okay. They knew he was up against an NFL suspension.
I mean, he went to the University of Miami. So they
No, he was on another team. Okay. I know that. So they brought him in knowing that he was facing a likely suspension. The suspension fell under the substance abuse conduct, and he got 4 games. He got 4 games starting last week. So this is a guy that got a chance in the NFL. And goes in and gets a suspension, knowingly gets a suspension, so it's not like there's some extra recourse he's going to have with the team. This is just something they knew. So how does he spend his week off, and what does he decide to do?
Well, apparently he's got a girlfriend who's pregnant.
5 weeks.
With his child. How fantastic. Glowing is the mother of your child. Probably just about showing at 5 weeks. Not time. Maybe,
not showing at 5
maybe,
weeks.
Yeah.
5 months, maybe.
5 weeks.
Yeah, 5 weeks. Pretty early.
And this dirtbag decides to punch the girl, the pregnant woman that is carrying his child, that is his significant other. And he decides to punch her.
He has been arrested. Innocent until proven guilty by the court of law, but guilty by NFL aspects. He was cut from the team today as this leaked out. This is kind of where I was going with that Myles Garrett thing, because this one kind of just popped up.
Yeah, but with all those prior arrests he ran, now this guy is just not a good human being. He's a danger to society. He kind of needs to be locked up, and the fact that he's a pro athlete in the NFL is saving his ass from being locked up.
Assuming he did it, evidence apparently is fairly strong.
I mean, obviously with priors on his record, he's not the saint.
But
it's the boy who cried wolf in this situation, man. This isn't a first time that we need to look into. This is this guy's a dirtbag.
But my problem is, and I guess I should give it some time to see what happens, is it's about the outcry. Where's the outcry? Where's the outcry for the fact that it's just disgusting behavior? It's criminal, disgusting behavior. So, I guess I look at it and I just that's the part that kind of, when you ask me about the suspensions, how I felt about it is, this guy, he was a 3rd string running back who's not very good. It's not like he put up great stats after they got him. And so his career's over, I'm sure. But where's the outcry? That's my problem when you were asking me about Myles Garrett that made it so tough, is I saw such a huge outcry. This is our livelihood and these are our things. Well, you want to know what? This is this woman's life. Yep. And I don't care what she did to him.
Certainly the baby's life. All right, the last one, and this is our good, the bad, and the ugly. Ran a little long. We're just under an hour, and we'll try to knock this out in a few minutes. The last one, to your dismay, how bad are the Bears at moving the football? Don't know? Well, Anthony Miller will show you. Number 17 slot wide receiver for the Chicago Bears, Anthony Miller, who's a second-year pro out of Memphis, scored probably 7 touchdowns last year. Hasn't really done much this year.
A little more active in this
game. But
pretty
much
a
couple
disappointment
weeks.
As the whole Bears
he
offense.
He catches a ball.
I believe that was a 3rd down, about a yard short of the sticks.
And he crawls on his belly to reach for first down.
He does the army crawl
and
after
I will share that
everything.
So you can get a good laugh. But it is ugly because the Bears, and I thought they found something in their run game. David Montgomery is a good back, but he didn't really do great this week.
No.
It wasn't like they were
There was question whether
it wasn't like they were playing an awesome team.
No.
And the fact of the matter is that I don't know that they know what they are, because I watched this game and I have Montgomery in a league or two in fantasy, and they've been sticking with him. And even in losing, he's had a couple decent efforts. And they still, they started the game with Tariq Cohen back there, I think.
They generally do,
I don't know.
but not long.
What are you
but
doing?
not,
That guy,
well,
get him out of there.
But I will say
it's not working.
It was a game time decision whether to play him, so they already kind of had the injury kind of teed up for him. But the simple fact was this offense is atrocious. It's not even an offense. They're frauds. Nagy's a fraud. If he gets another quarterback, he can get it done. Here's the problem I have, and this is what tells me he's a fraud. Trubisky threw 24 touchdown passes last year. He may not be great, but there's something to it. A guy, you can't throw 24 passes and not have some level of ability. Some. Not good, just some level of ability. It's as if they don't even play with a quarterback. And their play calling's terrible. Everything's terrible. Anthony Miller is just a video joke explaining the Bears offense this year. Nothing that Anthony Miller did wrong. It just was kind of funny to watch it because they literally, I think, have gotten what was it, the against the Lions, they didn't have a first down in the first half. I think they got one first down in the first half the week before, or maybe no first downs against Philadelphia. It's ridiculous. They did a little better moving the ball against LA.
And at the end of the game, the whole hip pointer injury for Trubisky. As a Bears fan, we talked about this off air, whether that's true or not. You think it might be a little more to the fact that he sucks eggs?
It has to be true now that he's got a hip injury because Nagy. Here's how I'm going to explain. Go watch this. I'm going to tell you, if you haven't seen these, watch a couple videos. You don't really have to watch a whole lot of it. The first one's just flat out disgusting. Go watch the interview of Prince Andrew getting interviewed by the lady from the BBC about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. If that interview doesn't make your skin crawl, I go and then say, go watch Matt Nagy in his post-game interview. Not Monday's presser, but the post-game presser he did. It's the same thing. Less serious charges, certainly, but it's that same, are you really trying to feed me this BS? You're so guilty and you know it. But on Monday, Nagy came out in the press. I give him credit. They cornered him on it. And they said, if Mitch Trubisky's healthy, is he your quarterback? And he said yes. So he's strapped to Mitch now.
Yep. So that'll do it. $1.02, but this was fun. We'll get this out and up. Again, the good, the bad, and the ugly from the NFL Week 11 recap. And we'll share all these posts with videos and articles from these good, the bad, and the ugly. We appreciate you listening, and we'll see you, as always, next time on the Gridiron. Have a lovely day.